That Raphael, the stage is yours. I'm so excited to have you here today for the session on flow.
What do we have in common with a simple paper plane? If we are on the right flow, we can travel far distances. We can loop the loops of life in the most creative way, and we can land precisely where we want to be. Do you know what puts you in the flow? Now, the answer to this can be a little hard to find if sometimes life breaks your wings and smashes you and treats you like trash. So this is why I'm today here, and I want to share one of my favorite stories. It's a story that actually changed my view on how to trick destiny and how to get back in the flow. And it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a king in a country far, far away. And it was a good king. But he had a problem. He had two personalities. On his good days, he came out of bed full of joy. And his gardens were harvested the most beautiful fruits. His servants were diligent, and he liked to get some people in the castle. At those days, he lowered the taxes, he respected the appeals of the people, and he invited everybody for a great lunch. But there were also these black days, where he couldn't get into bed. He just wanted to stay a little bit longer there. And when it was there, it was already too late. His dreams already passed by. On these days, his servants were not interested in him. The food was just lukewarm, and when he think of the sun, it gave him a headache even more thinking than on the rain. So when he realized that, and he had this one side of the positive mood swings and the negative side, he realized, oh man, that's a problem for me. Because on his good days, he made promises to the people. But on his bad days, he couldn't stand by them. So what did he do? He asked for the wise. The wise came to his castle and he said, please help me to solve this problem with my mood swings. You know, if I'm in a good mood, you all like me. But you suffer when I have one of my black days. But you know who suffers most? That's myself. So please find a solution so that I can eliminate these mood swings. And the wise agreed, and they went off. Weeks passed, months passed. Finally, they came back. They were in the castle, and they said, Majesty, we couldn't figure out the solution. There is no solution. And this night, the king cried bitterly. So I want to break this fairy tale here and ask you one question, and this is, can somebody of you identify with our old king? Sometimes you're in a good mood, sometimes not. Sometimes you have this feeling of not being in the zone, not being energized, not motivated, I'm not in the flow. And this is why I'm today here. So, my fellow paper planes, I gave you 3 chapters today. First of all, I want to jump into the science of flow. The question is flow just a buzzword or the next big thing? So I want to dive into what's happening inside of our brain. Is there a definition of it? How can we use it? It should be more than just a typical Instagram quote. Then after that, I'm going to ask you for your biggest physical challenge. What is it in your case? Was it maybe learning a sport? Was it getting stretchy, losing weight, gaining weight? In my case, it was learning breakdance and master that skill to become a trainer there. On the mental side, I ask you the same question. What is your biggest challenge on the mental side? So can it be learning a language or overcoming an anxiety or starting your own business? So for me, it was learning and mastering the skill of public speaking. And I want to share my secrets that I learned on my journey with you so that you can come into flow. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with the science of flow. And here I want to ask you a question. How do you feel in flow? And this is an open question. If you're really in the zone, if it's really going good, how do you feel? Just give me some responses. What's going on inside of you? Coherence is one thing, yes. Time is flying. That's, yeah, a lot of people say that. Do we have something else?
Energized.
Sorry?
You feel energized.
You feel energized. And if you ask a lot of more people and ask in science, there come so many things, like you're completely involved, you're focused, you're concentrated, and more, and more. And if it isn't enough, we have some more. So there's so many advantages of being in the flow, so that's really interesting to think what is actually happening there. Do we have somebody from Hungary here? Can you please pronounce his name correctly? Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Thank you, thank you. This guy studied flow for several decades. So there's a long history about analyzing this flow. There were people like Jim Fixx, who was talking about the runner side. There was Maslow talking about the peak performance. There was this basketball coach who was talking about being in the zone. He's doing it for even longer and on a scientific base. So he checked what is happening in the brain. And if we are looking at our brain, we have like 3 generations. The first, the reptile brain. Is it from the Stone Age? Is it just there for instinct and surviving? The second generation is there for social skills. And now we come to the youngest and modern thing, and I hope most of you got a neocortex. It's in the front of your brain, and this is there for analyzing. And it's there for problem solving. And people say, hey, we are only using 10% of our brain to get to these peak performances. We should use more of this brain. But it's very interesting what he discovered, Mihai, when he put people into the flow and did some brain scans over there. And what he realized is the brain, the neocortex, not the brain, is completely offline. There's nothing happening there. You are not in your head. You're not thinking. You're not analyzing. You're just doing. And this is very interesting. And he also tried to connect it to happiness. And he said, it doesn't care what happens external. With the power of your mind, you can focus on positive things and on negative things. And that's what makes you actually happy or not. It's not about these external things. So people are sometimes about, hey, if I have this boat, I'm happy. If I have this house, I finally be happy. If I have this cool car, then I'm happy. But nope, it's actually not. So he did his studies, I think it's already 20 years ago. So I brought you some new statistic here. And this statistic, here you see how happy people are in different categories and depending on how much money they have. This is a study from 2017 about people in the UK. I think Germany and UK is more or less the same. So I think we can appeal here, we can work with that. And what is interesting is that this chart, all the dots, the far left one side are presenting the people who are very poor, and on the right side they are the people who are very rich. And they ask, how happy are you in your life, in your year? How's it going? And it's really interesting when you see that in the beginning, if you don't have any money at all, you're a bit not so happy. But if you have these basic needs fulfilled, there doesn't change so much. And what is also interesting, this chart goes only from 6 to 8 and something. The whole scale goes from 0 to 10. So money doesn't have this big effect on happiness. So what Mihai is saying, he says, you are happy if you spend most of your time in this state called flow. But how do we get there? We can face our life as a challenge with a certain skill that we have. So if we have a huge challenge, but we don't have the skill, we feel anxiety. Now let's go to the other point. What is if we're super skilled, but the challenge is just a baby challenge? Then we're just bored. And now we come to an interesting point. What is if there's a small challenge and we have a small skill, it's called apathy. Maybe this is something like sitting in front of your TV or scrolling through Instagram. Yeah, you have the skill of scrolling, but the challenge is not that big. So it's like, I think nobody would be happy to scroll through for the rest of his life through Instagram. So what Mihai is coming up with is it's good to match the skill with the challenge, but increases from time to time. And this is what he calls flow channel. So if you have a challenge and you have a certain skill, choose a challenge that adapts to your skill and then slowly increase. If you learn something, you can increase the challenge. And this is how you get into the ecstasy. Because he says flow, his definition of flow is that you are completely involved in a task and you're using your task to the utmost. That is about the theory of flow. Okay, so it's mainly about matching your challenge with your skill. You can adapt on both of these and then go all the way up to the ecstasy of life. So the next thing that I want to talk to you is the most physical challenge you have. And here I also want to tell you a story. When I was 16 years old, and my view was something like this. I was the first time in a nightclub. There was a special party where people could join the party when they are just 16. So I used my chance. I said, yeah, this is my first party. I went onto the dance floor and I was actually shocked. There were so many drunk people, everything was sweaty, it was dark, smoke was coming everywhere, laser beams, and so many people. I was just overwhelmed. In addition to that, I couldn't dance at all, so I didn't know what to do there. I just was standing there, yeah, cool. And it was a bit overwhelming for me. But then, all of a sudden, when I was in the middle of the dance floor, somehow there was created a circle. People were making room to form an open space there. And I was just wondering what is happening here. And all of a sudden, dancers came in and dropped some moves, and they did so cool, amazing things like doing a backspin and spinning on his head and doing these top rock things. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And everybody was partying and cheering with them. The DJ was putting some heat on the table. It was just amazing. And when I saw this guy spinning on his head on the dance floor, I was just like, oh my God, I want to learn this. I will never stop until I can do this. Until the next morning, when I woke up, sober again, and realized I can't dance. This chair could dance better like me, so I can't dance at all. So this challenge to spin on my head out of nothing was a bit too far. So what matches my skill of dancing? What can I do in a part of dancing with my skill? I could sign up in a breakdance school. That was my skill that I can solve. So I went there and I learned this move. I had a trainer who gave me moves that I could learn. It was just like the basic step. It was horrible in the beginning, but I kept going, and slowly I learned. Until there was this day when my trainer came and told me, hey guys, there is a battle in the park. Want to join? I was just like, sure, why not? And so I signed up for this battle. And it was a beautiful day, it was a sunny day in a park. And yeah, I signed up and I came in and I could just dance a little bit there. So at some point, my name was called and I came to the stage to just dance. And it looked like this, yeah. And I lost in the first round. So I wasn't that skilled. I had no sense for music. I was just completely devastated. Yeah, but that's how it is. But when I look back where I come from, I thought, oh man, where do I come from? I'm supposed to be this guy who can't dance at all. And now, okay, I'm losing, but I'm still on a stage. And this is a principle which I call baby stepping. Okay? Whatever skill, physical skill, but also mental skill you want to learn, baby step your way through it. Don't think, oh, this is so super hard. I will never learn a backflip or to spin on my head. Or I will never grow so much muscles. Baby step your way. For example, when I talked about learning this head spin, like to spin on his head, this typical breakdance moves. If I explain that, I wouldn't say, okay guys, open up your leg, go with your arm and then spin on your head. That probably wouldn't work. But what if I make the challenge very, very small? If I say, guys, go on all fours, I think most of you can say, okay, that's easy, I can do that. And now put your head on the floor. Most of you will do that as well. Now it gets a little tricky where most people start learning. Hey, just lift one leg in the air. And then maybe try to jump a bit to get a feeling for that. I think most of you could try to do that. And then you could imagine that you are feeling comfortable by doing that. Maybe you can lift up both feet and stabilize. And work with your legs a bit. And maybe that's the next thing. You can move your arms through there and spin a bit. Move your arm to there, spin a bit. Move to there, spin a bit, spin a bit. And then you can make the spin even bigger, like a half a spin and half a spin. And then you do a full spin. And then you do 2 spins, 3 spins, 4 spins. And then you're not using hands anymore. And then you jump into something else. So you can challenge, you can stack up this challenge so high where you are, but we can find a baby step where you can enter and you feel a nice form of challenge where you are in the flow. 1 year later, I signed up for the next battle. It was so big. There were 200-300 people. It was in the city center, and I was super nervous. I was just like, oh my God, here's so many people. But I learned to spin on my head. I was like, I'm good to go. I don't care. I spin on my head. Yeah, I can do that. I just wanted to drop that move for my own ego, maybe. I said, okay, let's go into this. The DJ was playing his music. My name was called, and I stepped into the arena. And then I saw my opponent, and I was so excited. I just jumped into the battle and started dancing, and they spinned on my head. I was like, yeah, I finally did it. And then my opponent, the right guy in the gray shirt, he danced. He did a set. And he didn't have any power moves. It wasn't that cool. And after the battle, both of us looked to the judges, and the judges were sitting there, and they show by hands who's the better one. And all of them, all judges, showed to him. I was like, man, well, what the flow is going on here? Why do I lose again? The thing is, what I didn't do, I didn't freestyle. It was just putting some moves, and I don't care for the environment. So if you're in a physical environment somewhere, look what kind of music is playing. So what I want to say here is, life is playing some songs to us, but we can decide how we dance to that. Okay, and this is important to keep in mind. After this, 2 years later, I learned how to freestyle. You can imagine what comes now. And I was there, okay, now I can do the moves. I can freestyle. Guys, now I want to rock that battle. And it was the same place there. And I was super ready until I saw my opponent. My opponent was Gilu. And Gilu is like top 16 in Germany, and I'm not. So just for reasons of skills, I put her on the pedestal. And may I be honest with you? At that time, she was my personal dream girl. I was like, I just saw her in videos and rocking the stage internationally. And then she was in front of me. And the funny thing is, it is said that there's one moment in man's life where your dream girl approaches you. But I didn't imagine that was with a fist bump, transitioning into battle rock and starting to battle me. Yeah. That was a funny story. I still have to laugh today when I hear it. So after the battle, it was no battle. It was one-sided devastation. I couldn't do anything. Even I had the skills, even I had something what I could do, but I was just devastated. So after the battle, I went to my trainer. And my trainer is, he's like a really good dancer on world champion level. And he has this cool name, Sugar Ray. And he's some of my idols, and he told me one sentence that I will never forget. And he told me, it's not about beating your opponent, it's about beating yourself. We all compare us to other people and think, oh, they're so much better, they're younger, they're fitter, they're nicer, but who cares? It's not about them, it's about you. And if you know that you give it all and you beat your past self, then you're good to go. So let's summarize. Physical challenge, it's all about baby stepping. search your challenge that you can face and baby step your way to the top and learn how to freestyle, dance to the music, learn to dance to that, because you don't know which music life plays. And last but not least, beat yourself. It's not about comparing you with some other guys who are doing something. It's not about that. So just compare to yourself. So let's go to our last chapter, mental mastery. I want to be honest with you. I wish I could just drop you some random Instagram quotes and you're all inspired and changed your life. But it's probably not going to happen. So I think you have to face some results, some real results that are happening, and maybe you get inspired by this. And if I want to share you about one of my biggest successes I had, and this is becoming the European champion of public speaking. It was in 2016 in Timișoara in Romania. And I don't tell you that to brag. I tell you that to show what is actually possible. Because when you look back 2 years before that, in 2014, I gave my first speech ever. And this is a photo in the middle of my speech when I had a blackout. And I don't know why I started to put my finger in my mouth so that I could think better, but it didn't work. I had super fast movements, and I used to be an engineer, so I used tons of technical terms which nobody understands. I thought I appear intelligent, but it was just socially awkward. Yeah, it was no cool thing what's happening there. But there's one man who inspired me. So I came really from a low point, but there's this guy, his name is David J.P. Phillips. He tells us there is not something, you don't win in a genetic lottery to have this skill of something. Public speaking is just a skill. And I think it's not only for public speaking, it's for all the things. You can learn so much. And he did nothing but analyzing speeches. He analyzed 5,000 speeches and speakers from amateur to professional during the last 8 years. And he tried to find a scientific method, what makes a speech awesome, excellent, on a champion level. And he condensed and condensed and condensed. And what he came up with was just 110 techniques that you have to know. And he put them into areas like voice, body language, nervousy. Yeah, it's a lot. If you see it, like, you're completely overwhelmed. And this is where I want to give you my step. Use these tools, don't reinvent the wheel, but focus on just one of these, or maybe 3 of them. And maybe you step your way to the top. Build up your dominoes and take the tools that are already there. This cheesecake brought me into hell. You want to know why? One day I went to this public speaking contest, and it was about impromptu speeches. So you don't know the topic. The moderator comes up to the stage and just gives you questions. And normally it's usually inspiring questions, open generic questions where everybody could say something to, like, what is your biggest wish? What should everybody do? How do we make the world a better place or something? But sometimes these guys come on a crazy idea to ask you a question that has nothing to do with that. And in this case, I went on the stage, I was there, the moderator was standing there, I was smiling, all the guys are looking at me, and I was like, okay, moderator, give me the question. And the moderator was like, okay, here we go. You successfully traded a piece of cheesecake for the Taj Mahal. How did you do that? And I was just like, what the flow in my head? I had no idea what this question should be, but I have to give a speech about that. So when I realized that I start to panic and I have no idea what to do, I follow a principle. And I set days there to find a cool name for that principle, and what I came up with was the do something principle. It's just about slaughter the lamb, it's going to be ugly, but just get into the emotion so you break paralyzes. That's a huge thing. For all the perfectionists out there, slaughter the lamb. Go out there and make it dirty, but just go into the action and the rest will follow. So flow doesn't come before you take action, it comes while you take action. A lot of people ask me, how do you get motivated to write your speech? And I'm just like, I'm not I don't wait for motivation so that I keep going. It's the other way around. I start working and then I get motivated. So I'm not dependent on my motivation. I just start, and I don't like it. It's about slaughtering the lamb. It's going to be dirty, but I know soon, very soon, there will come the motivation when I just started. The last thing I want to share here is the thing what I called metamorphosis. And what I mean by that is transferring your strength that you already have to other areas of your life. Because everybody of you has some strengths, but maybe he's not using them to this full potential. When people ask me, hey, how did you manage to come from this nerdy engineer guy and then you became European champion in 2 years, how is that actually possible? And one concept of this is metamorphosis. It's about this black hole thing, just putting all the work that you have into there and then try to use your strengths that you have. For example, I used to be a dancer before that, so I could already stand on stage. And there was one thing how I won this European Championship about leaving the stage. No dancer leaves the stage while he's giving his talk. But I know my trainer, Sugar Ray, and sometimes he leaves the stage and is dancing somewhere else. And on this championship, I was the only guy about all these guys who left the stage, gave a high five to the people, and it was just authentic and just different. So use the strengths that you have in some other areas. And it can be that you have this thing of, I'm really good in this computer game. How can you use that skill in building up your business or building a brand or whatever you want to do? And another thing is about this, I used to be an engineer. And engineers are not that communicative in general. But what is my strength as an engineer? I'm really analytical. I know exactly why is happening what, and I can optimize. I'm really good in optimizing. So I built something like a toolbox, how I can craft speeches in the shortest amount of time, and I can drop them on stage, and I have a lot of things prepared there. And this was my strength. I was not that super authentic general speaker. Maybe that came later, hopefully. And you have the same strength that you can transfer. So let's wrap it up. Mental mastery, it's about using tools. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just learn one by one. Take that what is already there. But if you do so, learn also just to act. Okay, just do something. This is the thing about perfectionism. Sometimes I have a goal and it seems so high and so far away that I just think, okay, I'm not going to do it. So make it smaller until it stays achievable, and then you start. But keep that big goal in mind. And last but not least, metamorphosis. Take the strength that you already have and transfer them. Everybody of you has strengths that are not used to the full potential. So, my fellow paper planes, our life can be a wild hurricane, yeah? But if we choose to be the pilot in our life, we can decide where we want to flow and where we intend to go. I want to end this speech by telling you the end of our beautiful fairy tale. Do you remember this old king that cried bitterly? And the next day he woke up and there was a stranger knocking on the door of the castle. And he said, okay, come in, what do you want? It was an old man in a gray tunica. And he said, I come from far, far away and I heard about your sufferings. So I came to bring you the antidote. And the king was surprised. Okay, come in. And in his room, he was coming and said, Majesty, here's the antidote. And he put out a little wooden box. And the king was curious. What is in this box? He took the box and opened it. And there was nothing but a little silver ring. And he said, is that a magical ring? And the stranger said, yes, it is. It is a magical ring. But you have to wear it every day, and every morning you have to read the inside, the text that is written there. And he looked at the ring, and there was a tiny, tiny text. And he read out the inscription out loud, which said, you can't change destiny, but you can choose how you feel about it. So the next time when life puts you like trash, decide on your own if you want to feel like trash or maybe it's the next experimental battle star.